sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Okay, so get this. President Trump is trying to end birthright citizenship.
Wow.
In the U.S.
Yeah.
With an executive order.
Really interesting.
You know, the idea that if you're born here, you're automatically a citizen.
Right.
But can he actually do that?
Big question.
That's what we're going to explore today as we take a deep dive into this executive order.
I like it.
And the legal challenges it's facing.
Yeah.
Our main source today is an article from CBS News.
Okay.
It's called Judge Temporarily Blocks Trump's Birthright Citizenship Executive Order.
Catchy.
I know, right?
Uh-huh.
So it's an interesting one.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about the constitutionality of this executive order and its potential impact. So
big stuff.
Yeah, big stuff.
It's a fascinating question.
It is.
And the answer is far from simple.
Yeah.
This case really gets to the heart of what it means to be an American citizen.
Right.
And how much power the president actually has.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Sure.
What exactly is this executive order trying to do?
Well, imagine this.
Okay.
A child is born in the U.S., but their parents are here illegally or on a temporary visa.
Okay.
Under this executive order, that child would no longer automatically be considered a U.S. citizen.
Wow.
Yeah, it'd be up to the federal government to decide whether or not to grant them citizenship.
So it's a pretty big departure from how things work now.
Big change.
And I'm guessing this hasn't exactly gone over well.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's been immediate pushback, and a federal judge in Seattle,
Okay.
Judge Coffiner, has already temporarily blocked the order.
Oh, wow.
He even called it blatantly unconstitutional.
Wow, strong words.
Yeah.
What's his reasoning for blocking it?
Well, one concern is the financial burden on states.
Oh, okay.
Think about it this way.
Yeah.
If these children aren't considered citizens,
Right.
states would be responsible for providing them with services like education
Okay.
and health care, but without any federal funding to help. So the states would be left-footing the bill.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay. And what about the children themselves? How does the judge see this impacting them?
Well, he argues that it would essentially strip them of their constitutional rights.
Wow.
They would be in a kind of legal limbo,
Right.
unsure of their status, and vulnerable to exploitation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it sounds like this whole case really hinges on the 14th Amendment,
Big one.
the part of the Constitution that deals with citizenship.
Right.
Can you remind us what the 14th Amendment actually says about birthright citizenship?
The 14th Amendment says that all persons born or naturalized in the United States
Okay.
and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside.
Okay, so born in the U.S., you're a citizen?
Seems pretty straightforward.
It's pretty clear cut.
Yeah.
But I imagine there's some debate about how to interpret that.
There is.
Yeah.
On one side, you have those who argue that the 14th Amendment is very straightforward.
Okay.
If you're born on U.S. soil, you're a citizen. Period.
Okay.
No exceptions.
Right.
The other side argues that the phrase subject to the jurisdiction thereof implies that there are exceptions.
Okay.
And children of undocumented immigrants don't fall under that jurisdiction.
Yeah. That's a tricky distinction.
It is.
So is this just a theoretical debate?
Oh,
Or are there actual legal challenges happening right now?
This is very real.
Okay.
4 states, Washington, Arizona, Illinois, and Oregon,
Wow.
wasted no time in filing a lawsuit challenging the executive order.
Wow.
They're arguing that it clearly violates the 14th Amendment.
So they're not holding back in their criticism, are they?
No, they are not.
I read that the Illinois Attorney General had a particularly strong quote about this.
Yes, he did.
What did he say?
He said, no president has the authority to override the Constitution, period.
That's pretty bold.
Yeah.
With all this opposition, how is the Justice Department even defending this executive order?
Well, their stance is that they're not trying to rewrite the Constitution,
Okay.
but rather enforce its original meaning. Yeah.
That raises some interesting questions, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Who gets to decide what the original meaning is?
Right.
Especially when it comes to a document written centuries ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where this case gets really interesting.
Okay, so what happens next?
Right.
Where does this case go from here?
The Justice Department has made it pretty clear that they believe this case is ultimately headed for the Supreme Court.
And why is that significant?
Well, the Supreme Court, as it's currently composed, leans conservative.
Right.
This doesn't automatically mean they'll rule in favor of the executive order,
Okay.
But it does make the potential outcome a lot more uncertain.
Okay, so we've got this executive order.
Okay.
We've got legal challenges.
Uh-huh.
And the potential for a showdown in the Supreme Court.
This
might all seem a little abstract to the listener.
Yeah.
So why should you care about this case?
Well, this is about more than just legal technicalities.
Right.
This case could have a very real impact on the lives of countless families and children who are living in the U.S.
Yeah.
Imagine being a child born here,
Right.
growing up here, but suddenly having your citizenship thrown into question.
Right.
It's a deeply personal issue with far-reaching consequences.
It really makes you think about what it means to be an American, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it raises important questions about the balance of power in our government, the limits of presidential authority,
Right.
and the role of the courts in safeguarding fundamental rights.
Okay, so we've kind of set the stage here.
We have.
Introduced the key players in this legal drama.
Yeah, we've got the background.
But to really understand the weight of this case, I think we need to delve into the history behind the 14th Amendment.
Absolutely.
And explore how similar cases have played out in the past.
That's where we'll pick up in part 2.
That's where we'll pick up next time.
Sounds good.
We just talked about President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship and how it's facing some serious legal challenges.
Yeah, some serious pushback for sure.
Now, to fully grasp the significance of this case, let's step back in time a little bit.
Okay.
And explore the historical context of the 14th Amendment itself.
Yeah, get into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, what can you tell us about the origins of this amendment?
Well, the 14th Amendment wasn't just some random addition to the Constitution.
Okay.
It was born out of a very, specific and tumultuous period in American history.
Yeah.
The aftermath of the Civil War.
So it was ratified in 1868, right?
That's right.
Just a few years after the war ended.
Yep.
What was the main goal of the amendment at that time?
Well, you have to think about the state of the nation back then.
Right.
The Civil War had just ended. Slavery had been abolished. And there was this huge question looming. What about the millions of formerly enslaved people?
Yeah.
Are they now citizens?
Right.
What rights do they have?
Right.
The 14th Amendment was created to answer those questions and solidify the citizenship rights of African Americans.
So it was a direct response to the legacy of slavery and the need to ensure equality for all Americans.
Exactly. And you have to remember, before the 14th Amendment, there was serious debate about whether Black people born in the U.S. were even considered citizens.
Wow.
The Dred Scott Supreme Court decision.
Oh,
which happened just a decade before the 14th Amendment, actually ruled that Black people could never be U.S. citizens.
It's kind of mind-boggling to think about now.
Really highlights how groundbreaking the 14th Amendment was.
Yeah.
Fundamentally redefined what it meant to be an American citizen.
Right.
The Citizenship Clause, the part we've been talking about, was specifically written to overturn Dred Scott and guarantee birthright citizenship to everyone born on U.S. soil.
Wow, that's a powerful legacy.
It is.
But even with this historical context, there are still those who argue that the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to children of undocumented immigrants.
Right. They often point to a specific phrase in the amendment.
Okay.
Subject to the jurisdiction thereof.
Yeah.
Their argument is that children born to parents who are here illegally aren't truly subject to the jurisdiction of the U.S. in the same way that, say, children of legal residents are.
Okay, so it all comes down to how you interpret that phrase.
It does.
Have there been any past Supreme Court cases that provide some insight into how this phrase has been interpreted before?
There have been a few.
Okay.
But the most relevant one is probably United States v. Wong Kim Ark.
Okay.
From 1898.
Okay.
This case centered on a man named Wong Kim Ark, who was born in San Francisco to Chinese parents who were legally living in the U.S.
Right.
She traveled to China, and when he tried to come back, he was denied entry because of a law that restricted Chinese immigration.
So was he considered a citizen or not?
That was the question before the court. And it really tested the limits of birthright citizenship.
Right.
Ultimately, the Supreme Court ruled in Wong Kim Ark's favor.
Wow.
Upholding the principle of birthright citizenship as defined by the 14th Amendment.
Okay.
They stated that anyone born in the U.S., regardless of their parents' citizenship status, was a U.S. citizen.
It seems like that should settle the matter, but I guess it's not that simple.
You're right.
Yeah.
Those who support the executive order argue that Wong Kim-ark doesn't apply here
Okay.
because Wong Kim-ark's parents were legally residing in the U.S.
Right.
Whereas this executive order targets children of parents who are here illegally.
So even with historical precedent, there's still room for interpretation and debate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is a complex issue
It is.
with a long history, and the legal arguments are far from settled, which is why, as we discussed earlier, the outcome of this case could have major implications for how birthright citizenship is understood and applied in the future.
Okay, so we've got this executive order.
Right. We've got the 14th Amendment,
Yep.
and we've got past Supreme Court rulings that might or might not apply.
Exactly.
This is feeling like a real legal thriller.
It is.
Yeah.
And the stakes are incredibly high.
Speaking of stakes, let's shift gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about what a potential Supreme Court ruling could mean for people's lives.
Right.
What are the possible outcomes here, and what impact could each outcome have?
Well, one possibility is that the Supreme Court upholds the executive order.
Okay.
This would be a significant departure from how we've understood birthright citizenship for over a century.
Right.
And it could have a ripple effect,
Okay.
potentially paving the way for changes in other areas of immigration policy.
That would be a major turning point.
It would.
What about the other side of the coin?
Yeah,
Could they completely strike down the executive order?
absolutely.
Okay.
They could affirm the longstanding principle of birthright citizenship based on the 14th Amendment.
And send a clear message that the president doesn't have the power to override the Constitution with an executive order.
So, a victory for supporters of birthright citizenship in that case.
It would be.
Is there any middle ground here?
Mhm.
Could the court issue a more nuanced ruling?
There's always the possibility of a compromise.
Okay.
The court could, for example, uphold parts of the executive order while striking down others,
Okay.
perhaps trying to narrow the scope of birthright citizenship
Right.
without completely overturning it.
It seems like a middle ground ruling could lead to even more legal challenges down the road.
Yeah.
Trying to clarify the boundaries of birthright citizenship.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Any ruling on this issue is likely to be controversial
Yeah.
and will probably face legal challenges and ongoing debate for years to come.
So with all these potential outcomes, let's bring it back to our listener.
Okay.
Why should they be paying attention to this case, even if they aren't directly affected by the executive order?
Because this case goes far beyond the issue of birthright citizenship.
Okay.
It's a fundamental question of power, the power of the president, the power of the courts,
Right.
and the power of the Constitution itself.
It's a reminder that the Constitution isn't just some old document gathering dust.
No, it's not.
It's a living, breathing document that continues to shape our lives today.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how we interpret that document,
Mm-hmm.
how we uphold its principles, has profound implications for all of us. It's not just about this one case. It's about the future of our democracy.
All right, so we've unpacked the history of the 14th Amendment, explored relevant Supreme Court cases,
We did.
and discussed the potential outcomes of this case.
Yep.
But we haven't yet addressed the most intriguing question. What happens if this case does end up before the Supreme Court?
Okay.
What could their decision mean for the future of birthright citizenship
Right.
and even presidential power itself?
That's a big one.
That's a question we'll tackle head on in part 3 of our deep dive.
Oh, good.
So we've been on this journey exploring the ins and outs of President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship.
Quite a journey.
And we've gone over the executive order,
Right.
the history of the 14th Amendment, and we've looked at past Supreme Court cases that could influence the outcome of this legal battle.
Right.
Now, as we head into the final stretch of our deep dive, we're left with this question. What if this case lands in the lap of the Supreme Court?
Big question.
How might their ruling reshape our understanding of citizenship and even presidential power?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
What are the potential ramifications here
So many.
of a Supreme Court decision on this issue?
Well, imagine this. The Supreme Court sides with the president and upholds the executive order.
Okay.
It would be a monumental shift in American law,
Yeah.
essentially rewriting a core principle that has been in place for over a century.
What would that mean for people on the ground?
Well,
For families and individuals.
it could throw the lives of countless families into turmoil.
Right.
Children who were born here, who grew up thinking of themselves as American citizens, might suddenly find their status in question.
Right.
It would be a deeply unsettling and disruptive change for many.
It would also raise some serious concerns about the future of birthright citizenship.
Oh, absolutely.
Would it open the door for even more restrictions down the line?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
A ruling in favor of the executive order could embolden future administrations to further chip away at birthright citizenship,
Right.
potentially leading to even more restrictive policies.
So a lot hinges on what the Supreme Court decides.
It does.
But what if they go the other way?
Okay.
What if they strike down the executive order?
That would be a powerful affirmation of the 14th Amendment
Yeah.
and the principle of birthright citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
It would send a clear message that the president can't simply overturn constitutional rights with the stroke of a pen.
That would be a victory for those who believe that birthright citizenship is a cornerstone of American democracy.
It would reaffirm a core value
Yeah.
that has defined our nation for generations.
Yeah.
The idea that anyone born on U.S. soil has an inherent right to citizenship.
Okay, so we've got two very different outcomes.
Right.
Very different implications.
They're huge stakes.
Is there a middle ground here?
I mean,
Could the Supreme Court issue a more nuanced ruling?
it's possible.
Okay.
They could try to find a compromise,
Okay.
upholding some aspects of the executive order while striking down others.
Right?
Perhaps they'll attempt to narrow the scope of birthright citizenship without completely abolishing it.
But wouldn't that just create more confusion
Exactly.
and lead to further legal challenges?
You hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
A nuanced ruling, while potentially well-intentioned, could create a legal gray area,
Yeah.
leading to years of litigation and uncertainty.
Right.
It might end up raising more questions than it answers.
So no matter what the Supreme Court decides, it seems like this debate is far from over.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
This case has the potential to reshape the legal landscape surrounding birthright citizenship for generations to come.
It's a reminder that that we as citizens need to stay informed
Absolutely.
and engaged with these issues,
Yeah.
even if they don't feel directly relevant to our lives.
This case goes beyond legal technicalities.
Yeah.
It touches on the very heart of what it means to be an American.
Mm.
It underscores the importance of our continued participation in shaping the future of our nation.
Well said.
Thanks.
We've covered a lot of ground today,
Yeah, a lot.
exploring the complexities of this executive order and its potential impact on the future of birthright citizenship.
Big stuff.
It leaves us with a final thought-provoking question for you at home. If this case is a sign of things to come, what other long-held legal interpretations might be challenged in the future? Could other fundamental rights be redefined through executive action? It's something for all of us to ponder as we navigate the ever-evolving landscape of American law and politics.
I agree. Something to think about.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We encourage you to continue exploring this issue and engaging in thoughtful discussions about the future of birthright citizenship in America.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're Bobby doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.